Homesteaders, gardeners, and cooks. My name is Jennifer. Welcome to Miles Away Farm. Thanks for joining me in my kitchen. This is the first Saturday we've had in a while where we haven't had tasks to do that were just practically on fire. We went on a long vacation, and so there was a ton of stuff to do before we left, and then we got back from vacation and there was a ton of stuff to do because we'd been gone for 9 days, and also because we were going to get a frost. And all of that stuff did get checked off the list, or at least the vast majority of it. And this is a Saturday where we've had a frost. It got down to about 20, so everything is gone that was going to go, and I can let that go. And so I get a chance to kind of work on second tier projects. And so we've been working on, I bought a new press for sorghum. It's a cane press. And so I've been working on juicing sorghum out in the garage. And we went to an estate sale today, and I found a Pampered Chef bread pan. That was kind of fun, and some whole spices that pretty much never go bad. And so I always get those for next to nothing, and they're always a nice pantry staple. We had that beautiful pork roast that we've been eating as leftovers for quite a while. And today I'm going to make a vegetarian chili. So I'm going to kind of lighten it up. And part of what is inspiring this is basically a fridge clean out of a lot of things that were left from the insane picking that we've been doing for the last couple of weeks, getting ready for the frost. And so I have things that just aren't going to store a whole lot longer in my fridge that I need to use up. And so we're going to make a lovely, delightful vegetarian chili. And I'm not following a specific recipe for this. I'm just going to add in things that I think are going to taste good and add in my standard chili mix, which is basically onions, peppers, a big dose of chili powder, some cumin, some Mexican oregano, and then we'll taste it for seasoning after that. In this, I'm going to put in a couple scratch and dent leeks that I have on hand. These are poblanos that were from the last pick. I've got a little bit of patty pan squash and some zucchini squash. I have random hot peppers. I have some bell peppers that have actually been in my fridge for a couple weeks that I need to use up. Some green onions that I need to use. I'm going to add in a delicata squash because I think that'll be a really nice addition and give it a little bit more meatiness. And some tropia onions that I grew this year that are starting to sprout. I have a few that just never quite went into dormancy, so I'm going to throw that in there. And then out of the pantry, we have a canned Mexicali corn, a couple of different kinds of beans. And then this is a chili base that I canned last year. I didn't do it this year. That is mostly tomatoes, but it has onions and garlic and other things in it. So that should be a nice base. So we're just going to throw all this together and have a beautiful vegetarian chili for dinner tonight. Come join me.
So here's our slightly scratch and dent leek. My leeks had really, really long shanks on them this year. So lots and lots of usable leek here, which is really nice. And then I'm looking for dirt here, but these have been pretty well cleaned already, and so they don't need much. And I'm just slicing them down lengthwise as well, so that the pieces are a little bit smaller. And keep in mind when you're cooking leeks that they're much, much thinner than an onion and a little bit less moisture content because of that, and so they will cook down pretty quickly. These are green onions, also from the garden, planted way back in May, and these I've got just a handful left. And you can mix and match whatever alliums you have on hand here. So, normally you would just use a big yellow onion, and that's fine too. I was just using up some other random bits. This is a tropia onion, which is an Italian heirloom. I like to call them torpedo onions because they're long and skinny. They look a lot like a shallot, but a nice sweet onion, and they don't store well. I'm going to use them in some onion jam to use up the rest of what I have. This is the delicata squash, and the thing that most people don't realize about delicata is that the skin on it is actually completely edible and quite thin, and so it's very nice to not have to peel this. And I'm just scraping out that center cavity. And yes, I could save the seeds and toast the seeds and blah, 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 but I got a million of these. I don't really need to do that. And so I'm just going to throw the seeds to the chickens. And then I'm going to chunk this up into essentially bite-sized pieces, so a nice meaty bite in the chili. They're much easier to cut up than a lot of other hard squash are. Here we have some of my sweet peppers. I believe this is probably a cubanelle that has started to get ripe. I think I've gone through all the carmines. And then this is a poblano pepper. Poblanos can be green, or if you leave them on the vine, they turn red. And a red poblano, once it's dried, is called an ancho. This is a red one, so here's this also poblano, but red instead of green. And then I'm throwing in a few hot peppers here. So this is a yellow jalapeno, a green jalapeno, and then a couple of sugar rush peach peppers, and those have got some pretty good oomph to them. I did take the seeds and veins out of those, so they're not quite so hot. And then we need a bunch of garlic. I think I went with about 6 cloves here. And I'm just gonna mash it, and then I'm gonna finely chop it. This is gonna simmer for a good while, and so I don't really need to make it super fine. In oil, and then all of our alliums and peppers going into the pot. Nice dose of salt so that everything sweats down nicely. And this is probably after 5 or 6 minutes. Starting to get some nice caramelization. Throwing in the hot peppers and the garlic. They were smaller, and so I didn't want to start them from the beginning. And then this is chili powder, and I'm doing 3 tablespoons of chili powder, or teaspoon of chipotle powder, some Mexican oregano, which is very different from regular oregano, cumin, coriander. I don't always put coriander in, and then just a tiny touch of cinnamon. Because this is a vegetarian recipe, I wanted the flavor profile to be slightly different, and so literally 1/8 of a teaspoon of cinnamon. Tomatoes, I was going to use jarred tomatoes, and then I realized I still had some fresh tomatoes in my walk-in from the garden that needed to be used up, so big old bunch of tomatoes, a little bit more salt, and then I added, there was a tablespoon of a vegetarian vegetable stock that went into that as well. 4 cups of water. Once everything is loosened up and cooked down, and then in go my delicata. And these are going to take a while to cook, and so you just basically are adding things in order as they want to cook. This is our canned corn, and that has some onions and peppers in it. And then a couple of cans of home-canned, homegrown beans. And we're just going to simmer this on the stove until everything gets soft and delicious, and that's probably going to take at least a half an hour. I'm just going to push it to the back burner here where it can slowly simmer while I'm doing other things. This is about a half an hour later, and I'm testing to see if those delicata squash are thoroughly cooked yet. Not quite. They're soft, but not as soft as I want them to be. So I decided that needed another 15 minutes or so. However, I am going to add some summer squash in here as well. I've got a zucchini and a patty pan. These are the very end of the season, and so they're a little bit tougher than a regular one would be. And I'm just going to throw those in and let those cook for 10 or 15 minutes, and then everything should be done at about the same time. And this is hearty. It's got lots of different things in here. So this is after 15 minutes. See how much more tender that is? That's definitely finally ready. And we're ready to serve. And this is completely vegetarian. If you wanted to, you could certainly use beef stock or chicken stock. I decided it needed a little bit more salt. And then I'm adding a little bit of balsamic vinegar as an acid. Normally I would add lime juice to a chili, but again, vegetarian chili, I'm going for a slightly different flavor profile here. And then tasting just to make sure we feel like we're balanced. And it is done and delicious. Serving this up, and we actually had one serving out of this one night, and then we had some friends over for a game night, some of which were vegetarian, and so conveniently we could offer them a vegetarian chili as well. You can top this with whatever you like, from avocados to cheese. but absolutely delicious and a great way to clean out leftovers in the fridge. Give it a try, Tribe. Thanks for watching, Tribe. If you like this kind of content, give me a thumbs up, subscribe, leave me a comment, and share. I have new content coming out every week.